Often, people do not think about the elderly members of the community. They are often lacking in outside human interaction. Since so many of us have elderly members within our families, we must think of how we would want them to be treated and use our abilities to interact with elders who need it for their physical and mental well-being. One person making a difference can influence others to do so and introduce them to the elderly within their own community.
Something that really stuck out to me when volunteering was just seeing how old all the people were. Some of them couldn't even talk or move on their own. I think seeing people at the end of their lives just kind of makes you appreciate life as a whole much more. There was an incident that really stuck out to me where a woman was with her husband in her wheelchair and she turned to him and she said, "I want to go home." And he looked at her and he said, "You are home." And she kind of just started to tear up. And I feel like there's something to be said about that because, they're so fortunate to be in these homes and to have people to take care of them. But at the same time, it is sad that they have to go here because a lot of them don't get visitors often. That's just why it's so important to have volunteers like us because we're young faces and we put a smile on their face. When we volunteered, we worked alongside our community partner, and the volunteer coordinator, Rebecca, was always present to assist and direct us with the different tasks and activities that we were completing with the residents. She also gave us lots of great information on the different types of activities that we were allowed to do with the residents so that we could have more of a collaborative effort. During my time at Gulf Coast Village, I learned how valuable life is and that you should live every day to the fullest and not sweat the small stuff.
Some foundational elements that were connected to our civic engagement project were serving, giving, and leading. I think that we serve the residents at Gulf Coast Village by helping them every single Sunday with whatever they needed help with, whether it be the same thing we did last week, like the balloon toss, or something different like art or puzzles. We were just there to help them whatever way they needed. With giving, we definitely gave a lot of time to the residents. We had to be very patient with them. Sometimes it was hard to get a response back from some of them, but you just have to smile and make sure that you know that you're doing your best to help their day. And with leading, sometimes the nurse or the assisted living caregiver would be away for a bit to go do something else or to take care of other residents. And so we would kind of have to accommodate with that and make sure that what we were doing was right. Sometimes it would involve pushing the wheelchairs away so that the residents didn't knock into each other. Some of them were getting fed up with that. We just had to make sure they were all comfortable, and sometimes it was a little difficult to know exactly what to do because we weren't given guidance, but I think we did a good job with leading in that sense. This type of skills that we utilized were definitely problem solving, critical thinking, and civic dialogue.
From this project, we learned the importance of human interaction and how it can impact people in different ways. We also learned how to communicate effectively with the elderly community. This project impacted us in many ways. First, we realized how hard it is for people when they can't take care of themselves. There are many options to choose from when being in this situation, but we all agree that living in an assisted living home is probably the best option. Most of us were really nervous to start our volunteering and shocked when we first started, but over time, we grew to appreciate and bond with the residents at Gulf Coast Village. We really want to stress the fact that everyone should appreciate the life that they have and don't take it for granted. It was a very rewarding experience, but it was still very sad to see all of the issues and struggles that the residents have in their daily lives. When we volunteered, we also learned about love. There were many times that we went to volunteer and a resident's spouse would be there visiting. Most of the residents are not able to communicate or talk back to everyone, so it was very sad to see, but it is nice to see that the spouse or loved ones are still there supporting them and giving them love when they might not be able to reciprocate it. When volunteering, not a lot of residents are responsive, but the few that are did thank us and always smiled when we were there. Even though they can't get up or shake our hands or show their appreciation, we could tell how happy they were when we volunteered with them just by their smiles and excitement in their faces.
Our group's time at the Gulf Coast Town Village encompassed a wider range of pre-selected activities. These activities included both physical and mind-stimulating motions, as these activities included a balloon toss, a beanbag throw, music, and flipping through picture books. The balloon toss consisted of our group inflating 2 to 3 balloons and rotating in a circle, actively bouncing the balloons back and forth between the patients. The beanbag throw included our group aligning 3 baskets in front of each patient, as they would attempt to throw and make a shot in each basket with stuffed animals. Music therapy was used to encourage the patients to actively sing and make motion. The music provided included oldie hits from the 1950s and early 1960s. Finally, we would also sit down with various patients who were not able to participate in the other games and flip through picture books while providing dialogue, so all patients were included in any activity. These activities were beneficial to the patients at Gulf Coast Village, as these activities provided positive emotional therapy. Working with the elderly requires a great deal of critical thinking, association, and problem solving. One may think that simply working with the elderly is straightforward and very simple. However, that is not always the case, as many patients in a retirement home struggle with many different symptoms, such as Alzheimer's and dementia and so forth. Therefore, my time spent at the Gulf Coast Village required critical thinking in the fact that I needed to quickly adapt to each individual's certain situation. For example, if someone had a very hard time communicating, I must adapt to the situation and learn to get on their level and speak to their level, such as requiring reading of a picture book and slowly speaking to them. Association, I need to kind of put myself in their shoes and see how they're feeling. Maybe take things slower and stuff like that. And therefore, that relates to Chapter 4, because we need to learn how to associate with them on their level. And the critical thinking aspect, however, is the most important, because I needed to really think about how I was going to make their day better. And that's not always an easy process, because they may be having a bad day. So again, I need to put myself in their shoes.